same. What do they want from me? It's not the same old me that they want. I can't keep giving me for no cause.
Yeah, dude. So like the worst injury I've had was I had testicular torsion, dude, from kickboxing. Bro, that's a whole different kind of pain. I woke up in the morning and I was just like, I can't fucking walk. At least like your arm, that looks pretty fucking gnarly, but like you're still mobile. You know what I mean? Like I walked literally like a fucking cowboy for like months, dude. I was like, months, dude, for a long ass time.
How long until you decided to go get it checked out though?
No, it was instant.
Oh,
I had sparred that night. And there's something called a scoop kick where because we all wear groin protectors, right? But like, so you kick the groin, but the top of your foot, you pull it backwards. So it like hits your balls that are behind
you trying to get it back there.
Because it wasn't a Muay Thai cup. It was just like a regular, like the cup you would wear fucking baseball, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, instantly I knew that was a good one. But I fought the rest of the night. And when I woke up in the next morning, I was just like, something's wrong. Like, and I couldn't walk, dude. I army crawled down the fucking hallway. I was 15 at the time. So, yeah, I was young. So I crawled down the hallway to my dad and I'm like, dude, I can't go to school. I need to go to the hospital. He's like, get up, go to fucking school. I was like, I can't walk. He didn't believe me for shit. So when I got to the hospital, it was even worse. Cause like, I'm there. I tell him what I think is wrong. Like my left nut hurts like a fucking ass. And I dropped my pants, dude. And it's this like little Filipino lady doctor. And she looks at it and she's like cupping my balls. She's like looking at it. And I'm like, this is fine. This is totally normal.
This is totally normal. Don't pop apart.
Yeah, dude. But so the crazy thing was she like looks at me. She's like, She leaves the room, comes back with 3 more people. And then it's like they look like maybe like students or I don't know what they were, but like
come look at this shit.
Yeah, basically. And they're like pushing, pulling, and like, like, does this hurt? Does that hurt? And then she goes like this to my dad. She's like, we have to get him into surgery right now. Yeah, dude. So I got into surgery and they do because what it is you get hit, your balls retract up to your body.
Yep. So
sometimes they retract to your body and they twist. Yeah, dude. So and what it is, there's like this vein that runs to the ball supplying blood. So sometimes I can get wrapped up and twisted in it. It cuts off blood supply. So that's why it swells up and gets all fucked up. So if I had waited, dude, I would have lost my left nut. Oh, yeah. But it was a bad surgery. That's the worst thing that's ever happened to me as far as medical wise.
Well, this is definitely way worse. Way worse. I can still move.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking bad.
No, the only time this ever really bothered me very much was when I'm working out.
Yeah.
So it's after a couple months of consistent working out, especially heavy lifting or anything like that, my arm would start locking out. Sometimes it would lock out during push-ups. So I'd be in the middle of a class and I couldn't move my arm. I'd like roll to the side and I'd get behind the elbow and push down. It would kind of like give me a little pop and then I can move it again. I'm like, that's weird. But
because you're a PT instructor, right?
Yeah.
So like when that happens, that happened while you were in class, all the trainees are just like, or did you just muscle through it?
Oh, I just kept going. I don't know what the fuck's going on right now, but
fine, right?
This is fine.
Totally fine.
We'll just do squats now and abs, like the.
Dude, so I lucked out when I was there because you have team A, team B, or group A, group B. I was in group B, and group A, their PT instructor was a real lean, skinny, like.
I'm running all day.
No, I have that backwards. I was in that guy's class, and the group B was in the guy that was just like built like a wrestler, dude. Yeah, dude. So they did mat room all the time, and we fucking ran all the time, dude, all the time. And I got there in May, so I was there for May, June, July. Dude, the hottest fucking months. There was like black flags and shit. We still ran anyway. Like,
we never used to care.
Yeah, dude.
When I first went out there and started doing it, we didn't care at all. In fact, nobody's listening. So, one of the guys that taught us how to do the job, he was like, so we had this thing called the SPCP, the Standard Physical Conditioning Program. And he was like, here's the SPCP right here. Here's the window. We're just going to throw that bitch out the window. We're just going to fuck these guys up. That was what we're like,
I really like that too. You know what? That's good though. I think it should be like that sometimes for some things. So
Yeah.
we started this kind of immediately went into some extreme topics, fucking nut injuries.
Nut injuries. That's rough. That's a rough start.
So who are you, dude? What are you? Who are you? You know what I'm saying? Like the deepest.
Who am I?
Eric. You can say your last name if you want, or go whatever.
Right. I'm Eric.
Eric G.
Eric, G.
G.
Sounds cool.
What's up, G?
Yeah, man. I've been out here doing the same thing you do for about 12 and a half years now.
You've got some other experience. So before that,
before that, I did 8 years in the Guard, National Guard.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Army infantry stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do anything in the sandboxes, as they say?
I did not. I tore some ligaments in my ankle during my time there. In the good old VA system and all that stuff, it took me 3 years to get the surgery I needed.
I hear it's great though. They take care of you, though, right?
Solid. That socialized healthcare. Nobody's died on lists just trying to get treatment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
But they definitely won't do that now since legals take the precedent.
Of course.
Over the vets.
Yeah, dude. Oh, speaking of, this just happened. USCIS just added a third gender to their little immigration paperwork or whatever. So you have male, female, and then X.
Yeah, just X. Just X.
I think it's, I don't even fucking know. Or whatever. I don't even know.
I'm with the X thread, I guess.
Yeah,
or no, not men. Not men. You can't say men.
Exactly.
Say
X men. I mean, X people.
X people.
Yeah,
X
X-Force.
people. The X Force, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that shit is so wild. Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to talk to you, dude, is because like we share a lot of similar views on that kind of stuff and how things are going down with everything, the country, with culture, all that stuff. So how would you say your views have changed over the last 12 years since you've been doing what I do?
Oh man, well if you rewind, I enlisted in 03, and I just turned 17. So it was like I had to sit around and wait from I was a freshman when 9/11 happened, and so I'm like, send me, let's get going. Dude, I was like 16, so I was like, I had to wait, signed up, all this stuff. But I was like, want to do all the cool stuff that everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my body sucks, and I tore some ligaments not long after being. I think it'd been in for like 2 years, maybe, right prior to deployment. Thinking that the military is as awesome as I thought it would be, like, well, obviously they're going to fix me and take me on the deployment, right? That didn't happen. They took the fat fucks that couldn't pass the PT test.
Well, they can eat up a lot of bullets. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what it is. Yeah, the bullet sponges.
First one to the door.
So, but you catch me 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I was 100% pro. I mean, I'm still as pro United States of America as you can freaking be. But I was also pro U.S. government. I thought we were kind of the same thing. The country and the government were kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And that, well, the government cared. They had our best interest at heart, right?
Of course.
That's what I thought.
Wait, is that not true?
Turns out it's not,
Not entirely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people confuse when you say the government, they confuse that with the people, right? Like like the military or something like that. Like, oh, like the people who make up the military, that's what people think of. And it's only if you believe the government is of the people, for the people, by the people. If you still believe that, then that kind of makes sense. But that's not what I believe. I don't know what your stance is on that.
No, that's not the way it is at all. It was the way it was always portrayed. And so, when you're young and dumb and you don't have experience working in the government, you kind of believe those things, right? But it took some time. Over time, I kept seeing, like I tore ligaments in my ankle, but if I would have known what I was doing, I was a dumb high school kid, just graduated high school. So I didn't know what I was doing. So if I would have been on top of it, not waiting for the government to fix me and just done it myself, I'd have been fine. Probably without surgery. But I saw dudes come back from deployments all screwed up. And you know how much healthcare they got? About the same as me.
Really?
Like how many appointments are you going to? Like this guys had to go through Congress and start congressional inquiries to get stuff done for injuries they sustained overseas. And that's not always the story.
Yeah.
But there were more than a couple guys in my unit that had things like that happen to them. And it's like, man, that's not the way it's supposed to be. If you're sending dudes over to go do this stuff, you're telling them that's worth their life. That's worth us being there. You should probably take care of those dudes when they come back.
If you cared. Right. So that was the beginning of like, something's wrong here in this situation.
And it took over time. I'd say the biggest break, was probably more the Snowden stuff coming out.
Yeah. So that was 2000 and like what? 2015? When was that?
It's so hard. He was putting out a lot of stuff, and I didn't pay attention at first.
Yeah.
But as it all came out, and I forget kind of what made me actually start paying attention and want to listen to what he had to say rather than just dismissing it. Because
13.
13.
Well, that's when he was employed, so he leaked it. Let's see. Yeah, 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. That's and if anyone who's not familiar, he leaked basically the mass surveillance programs, the prison program. Basically, like when Obama was up there saying, we're not collecting, we're just collecting metadata.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is just like,
he kind of put out why that was important, rather not something just.
Yeah. Well, not only that,
off.
he put out that they were collecting metadata, but more than metadata. It's not because like they made it seem like they were just kind of doing this blanket collection of data that was just like your IP address, or if you had a phone call, just record the phone number. It's like no, they recorded your emails, they record everything that you would think they could get. They got from those programs. You know what I mean? X Key Score, the prison program. Anybody, you can Google all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big moment for whistleblowers, and which is funny because his platform originally was protecting whistleblowers, right? Like his Hope and Change website had this whole little blurb on there to protect whistleblowers, which they removed later.
Oh yeah,
dude, because he charged all those guys with Espionage Act.
Yeah,
the Espionage Act.
Well, the wild thing is too that Snowden has said multiple times, "I'll come back, I'll face trial, just not under the Espionage Act." Give me a fair trial under U.S. laws, not under a FISA court or something like that, where no one's going to see the hole I get put into.
Right.
I'm like, that's a pretty wild stance for someone to take.
Well, because I think if you get charged with that, you don't get like a trial. Like you don't get to like state your case, right? Because it's like this is all national security shit, so you can't make your case of why you did this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's classified. That's
classified. Yeah.
To protect things.
People believe that shit still to this day. They'll be like, well, the FBI had to redact all that stuff because it's a matter of national security. Every time that we have had the unredacted versions of redacted versions, it's always never about national security. It's always protecting some asshole that is in there, like the deputy director or the director of the FBI.
Well, like when Obama did the executive privilege over the Fast and Furious thing, right?
Yeah, and Eric Holder refused to go.
So they all said basically, this is one lone office, a couple agents.
Yeah.
They decided to go do this and give guns to the cartel on their own.
So what was the Fast and Furious?
What
was the Fast and Furious program, if you remember?
So
Just
it was
doesn't remember.
the straw purchases. So the government came to some of these gun stores in Phoenix area and said, hey, we know these guys are prohibited possessors and we know they're connected to these gangs and stuff and cartels. We want you to sell it to them anyway.
And then what? Why would they do that?
Well, because they put these trackers inside those rifles that, they couldn't actually track to, go arrest the cartel bosses in Mexico. Because that sounds like a legitimate plan that the U.S. government would ever do. Because we have jurisdiction to go arrest people. And then those guns are obviously going to go into the safe of the cartel heads, not out on the street and kill people.
Yeah, of course.
Like, most notably, and the only reason we know anything about this, Brian Terry.
Did you hear the static just cut out? Yeah, I just realized I had another channel open.
Oh shit!
Well, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Sorry for the static, everybody. I'll have to edit that out, post edit.
Yeah.
But so they what actually happened after they let those guns go south?
They let the guns go south. The so-called trackers, as far as I know, went dead. They couldn't track them.
Or they found them. Who knows what happened?
Yeah. Well, and then a bunch of them. The first noticeable case that I recall was the guns were used to kill a bunch of high school kids in Mexico, and the school bus or something just got shot up by the cartels. But then they went back after those gun stores and tried to take them down for allowing those.
Like wait.
You wanted us to do this.
The ATF was like, this was all their idea. Like, Yeah. So that whole thing obviously blew up. A federal agent got killed. Brian Terry out in narco. He was a narco agent.
He was Bortak. Yeah. So it was actually just down south in Arivaca, south of the Arivaca kind of area in those mountains out there. Yeah.
So
as far as I know, somebody probably knows exactly where that happened.
And who went to jail? Obviously, some of the we have these few cartel members that were turned in years later.
Right?
Yeah, turned in years later. But who on the the orchestrating side. Like if you run a government like if you're part of the ATF and you do an operation and a bunch of people get killed, hypothetically, like some people get killed, and obviously you fucked up. What happens? Like just
A whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm
just kind of don't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
I wonder what happened.
It's weird because if I came to you and be like, hey man, I need to go smoke somebody. Could you loan me one of those guns?
Yeah.
And we're like, sure, dude. And I go do that. Like you're 100% responsible.
I'm liable for that. Yeah. I'm sure. I'm like, he told me what he was going to do, but he did it, not me. It's like, and
right.
Yeah. That's a wild one. So yeah. So like the Snowden thing really kind of woke you up, huh?
Yeah. It really started that process.
And once you open that door, dude, there's just,
well, you just constantly see. So I think the best way I explain it, and I've tried to like run it through in my head is like, because I still, man, to this day, I still bleed red, white, and blue. Yeah. I fucking love this country.
There's a difference between the country,
100%.
Yeah,
and I've completely gone away from that. That government like doesn't represent any of us.
Yeah.
But after you see so many times that your own people, right? It wasn't me. I wasn't like we can talk about every problem we've had in the last decade.
Right.
Benghazi, right? All these things were like you're just stabbing the people in the back that you've sent somewhere to go do something. You told us that this was worth, like, I've got friends that didn't fucking come back. In fact, one of the anniversaries of 3 guys that were killed in my unit, it's kind of a shitty situation. Well, of course it's a shitty situation.
Yeah.
I chose to come here and do this job and I left the military before I would have gone on that deployment with those guys.
Yeah.
A friend of mine and stuff. And so, you see this stuff that they constantly betray these people, right? Like those guys were killed in Afghanistan. And what did we do with Afghanistan? We just walked the fuck away. Like nothing that any of these guys did at all over these 2 decades mattered at all.
Yeah. They
just, my wife's brother he was in the Air Force and he was in there real early on building the freaking, I'll fuck up which airport it was that they were building to bring planes in on stuff. But the Rangers showed up, and secured some shit. And then they came in to start building. So to build the infrastructure. And he had a hard time with everybody. Everybody's had a hard time with it. Yeah,
dude. Yeah. That's a weird one, the Afghanistan thing. Cause you could, like after 9/11 happened, I think you could probably make an argument that maybe you could justify going into Afghanistan because, clearly there were some terrorist assholes that were being trained over there and funded by some people or that were hiding out over there. Mm-hmm. Iraq make no fucking sense. I mean, there is no justification why we did that.
Yeah.
Yellow cake uranium or whatever, or weapons of mass destruction that we never found. Yeah, dude. Remember Colin Powell's up there with like, they got yellow cake uranium and there was no fucking weapons,
One of my college professors spent some time in the agency and he was in the room when they gave the slam dunk argument. I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
No.
When George W. Bush asks about the weapons of mass destruction and the CIA says it's a slam dunk. He wasn't the guy that said that, but he said he was in the room when that happened. So, yeah,
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I think after 9/11 happened or whatever, like that, I was pretty gung ho behind everything. And then,
dude, read my what? I don't got nothing to hide. Read my emails, right? Patriot Act, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna stop the terrorists.
You got nothing. I got nothing to hide. What are you? Are you a terrorist?
Yeah, That's it, dude. Right? That was how it was.
Yeah, that's how everyone thought. And then you don't realize like whatever weapons that the state gets, inevitably they get turned on the domestic population, dude. Like
that's what turned me. Turned me. Like you assholes are using this against us.
Yeah,
I thought you're supposed to use it against terrorists. Like you're trying to stop these people from killing a bunch of people. No. You're more worried about what I'm sending.
Yeah,
right. You're more worried. That's
the thing. You give someone, you take the leash off them to go do whatever you want to terrorists. They'll just. But the problem is they get to define who's a terrorist. So like the second, right? We saw it during COVID. The second you're not in line with whatever it is they want, whether it's a war in Syria or COVID restrictions and lockdowns, whatever you're not in line, now they have this whole apparatus that you let them build, like that you were behind them initially.
Yep.
We all were. And that gets turned on you.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing it now.
Yeah. And we did it to ourselves, right? Because we were 100%. All for it,
Yeah.
And that was one of the things too, when after 9/11, when the war started kicking off, and then Iraq was just in 2003, I kept seeing all these Vietnam veterans protesting it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong with these guys?
These hippies doing.
Yeah, like what you went and did this, you should know better than anyone.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, oh no. All right. I mean, maybe some of them are crackheads, right? Like that,
Yeah.
just hippies that don't want war, just peace, sometimes you got to kill people. I'm not against it, but
Me neither.
but seeing what they were saying, like they're about to use you guys and then just turn their back on
Yeah,
you.
I mean, yeah, because they lived it, right?
They lived it, yeah.
They lost
and
it.
when we ignored them at our own peril, right?
Yeah.
But we couldn't. I would never have heard that. I would have never heard that.
Of course
back
not.
then.
Yeah, I think about my state school education. Like, when I say state schools, I just mean public schools. Because I actually went to both. I went to private school and state schools. But my state schools education, I think about like I was never told, like every war I learned about, we were always the good guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's some people drop the ball here and there, but generally we were good, And then you get older and you actually look back from other sources, like a combination of sources, like for Vietnam, specifically the Gulf of Tonkin incident, where they basically lied and said that the NVA attacked this ship in the Gulf of Tonkin, which turns out they did not do that. I mean, it's pretty conclusive at this point. That was it's a false flag operation. And that got us into a war, where I don't know how many Americans died, but even though a bunch of Americans died, who knows how many like Cambodians, Laotians or whatever, Vietnamese. I mean, we wrecked that whole fucking place, like to fight communism or whatever. But like, that's the thing. Like we're always sold, we're the good guys, and I'm reading now, hindsight, I look back at all these wars that we learned about and I'm like, we were the good guys on every single one of these.
We're 100%.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah. We didn't fuck up once.
Not once, like, and then you get older and you start to learn like, oh shit, maybe this is not the whole story that you were given. You know what I mean? That's kind of what really turned it for me, was like looking back at history. This is like, I found podcasts in like 2013 and I would hear just different, people coming through Rogan's shows, Dave Smith, Tom Woods. I heard just different, like other perspectives, cause I was more of a right-wing kind of guy at the time. And I heard, people like, hey, maybe we didn't have to nuke the Japanese, maybe this is, here's the case that, they would have surrendered because Russia, we had just defeated Hitler. Russia was about to turn their attention to Japan. There's no way they would have surrendered, and because the argument we were given was we had to nuke them because we would have wasted all these American lives invading the island or whatever. But I think there's a good argument to be made that we wouldn't have had to do that anyway. And Eisenhower knew that. People knew that at the time. You can look into it, but knowing that is like, shit. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, right? But I believe that would happen.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they rounded up Japanese Americans and put them in camps.
Yeah.
Like I had an argument today about the Constitution with somebody, and they were like, "Well, the Constitution is what limits the government." I'm like, "Does it? What are you seeing today that limits the government?" Because I mean, you can give all the examples in the world, but the Japanese internment, I mean, clearly that was a violation of those American citizens' rights, even then. And I guess maybe a court later on was like, oh yeah, you guys fucked up. Okay. So they said somebody fucked up. Who went to jail?
Who even lost their job?
Yeah. The president, whoever ordered it should have been in trouble for violating. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, during COVID, when they say like, oh, these executive orders they were doing were found to be unconstitutional.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like unconstitutional means illegal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
if we did something unconstitutional, you lose your qualified immunity at that point.
Well, dude,
you can't
I might even go to jail.
Yeah, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
But if somebody at the top does it, it's different.
Oh, it's like, oh, well.
It was for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, he thought he could do it, and the court said he couldn't do it. So I guess he's like, oops. You know what I mean?
Like what? He's not any good at his job? He doesn't know what he can and can't do?
Yeah, but we're expected. Like if I violate someone's Fourth Amendment, like if I just walk into someone's house and I'm like, is there any illegal aliens in here or whatever? Just like walk in and be like, oh, well, they're like, that's a Fourth Amendment violation. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I thought I could do that. And they're like, okay, don't do it again.
Yeah, just don't do it again.
Yeah, they're not going to say don't do it again. They're going to be like, you're facing serious discipline right now. And you're probably going to be criminally prosecuted.
Yeah, somebody's going to find those charges.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying. When this happens on a governmental level or like a higher level,
well, even at all levels in the executive branch. So if you look at the governors that did this stuff too, right? Everybody just like,
dude, I advise everybody to Google the governor of Virginia when they're talking about, I think it was Tucker Carlson actually who was interviewing him. And it was like, So this locking down churches and doing all these things, what part of the Constitution do you think allows you to do that? And he says, well, we weren't really thinking about the Constitution at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
That is your whole job.
You just said that.
Yeah, you just said that.
You said the crazy part out loud.
Yeah,
Like,
on Fox.
and you're still breathing. That's
Or at least you're not facing some kind of criminal prosecution.
at all.
Yeah.
Immediately, that you should just lose your job immediately, right? Like that should be. Yeah, you can go somewhere
Can
else.
you imagine, dude? Like I did something fucked up, and I was like, well, I wasn't really thinking about the Constitution.
Yeah,
I
got mad, so I just killed this guy.
So
Right?
I
I shot
beat
him
the shit out of him and killed him or whatever. But I was really upset. I wasn't really thinking about his First or Fourth Amendment.
Because we get a lot of guys that can't handle. This is one of the funniest parts of the job to me is like they can't handle when illegal aliens run from you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes them so angry, and then they get like, bro,
Take
that's
it
their
personal.
job. It's their job. Their job's to run. Ours is to catch them. Like, why are you taking that shit?
Everyone
I mean,
takes it.
be obsessed about it at the time. Try to get them, but like, don't treat someone like shit afterwards. Like,
Yeah, like once you do catch him, you can't tune him up. You know what I mean? Like he
for
ran.
what?
Yeah,
it's his job.
Yeah,
like he's trying to get out. Like that's
exactly, dude.
I mean, if he tries to play stupid games, and then you handle business at that point. But,
That's a different story. How many cops have you watched? Like someone's like calling them a bitch to their face, and they're like, "Fuck you," like losing their shit. Like they're like, "Fuck you, pig," and it's like, why do you care about that? Like, why? Because it's not you. He's looking at your uniform. Like, but some guys are so tied to their uniforms, right?
That's
they're
true.
tied to their position.
It's their identity.
It's their whole identity. So when someone's insulting that, they're insulting like, oh, that's me, my personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like when you're in that position of like leadership over like or authority over somebody, I think your responsibility is greater.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not
and it should the extent to how much that how big that becomes should be correlated to how big you get, right? So the more people you're over, right? So a governor, a president, they should have way more than even just us at the low level.
Yeah. But they're not held to the same standard as us. People are like, well, they're held to a higher standard. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. We just debunked that right now. Like clearly this president sitting right now violated several constitutional, I guess you would say, rights that you have or protections. Because courts deemed like what he was doing was unconstitutional, which means against the Constitution. The Constitution did not give him the authority to do what he did, which means he violated.
And that's the only place that your authority is derived from.
It's the consent of the governed allegedly in this piece of paper. So that's what we were talking earlier in this conversation was like, whoa, the Constitution is what limits the government. And it's like, it clearly it doesn't. Like, and then I list all these examples. That's one of them, the COVID stuff, how it didn't stop them, or the wars. Like we're in how many wars right now? And when's the last time we had a declared? Because like the Constitution requires we have a declaration of war if we're going to go to war. But we're at war with Russia right now. If anyone thinks we're not, you're a fucking retard. Because dude,
we're just shipping missiles and weapons to the people that are actually.
If I'm in a fight with you, if me and you are fist fighting and someone throws you a gun, I'm going to fight with both of you now. Like I'm going to fight with both of you. You're both equally, So people, because there's not this stupid like formal declaration of war, like we're not at war. We are at war. I mean,
you just traded one for the other, right? That's why we had to ban Afghanistan, was to say, well, now we can be all in on this thing because money.
And even if you think we don't have troops on the ground over there, which we do, but let's say hypothetically we did it, you can't make that argument in Syria. We have troops in Syria. You know how I know this? Because the ambassador gave an interview under Donald Trump. He gave an interview to military.com saying that they lied to Donald Trump about the troop numbers in Syria because he wanted to know how many people were there because he wanted to pull everybody out. And this is why Mattis left his service or whatever, stepped down under Trump. But the ambassador openly admitted to lying to our troop numbers there, which means we do have troops in Syria, which a country which is hostile to us, and we're hostile to them, but we are not at war with them, not formally, but we have troops there. So clearly the Constitution did not stop them from doing that. You know what I mean? That's another of many examples of where the Constitution does not limit the government. It might limit you, it might limit me, but it doesn't limit the actual people that run things.
Everybody's worried about what cops do nowadays. And you should be concerned about the power, right? Because dudes that were arresting people for going to church during COVID stuff. But everybody's worried on the low level, but you're not worried about the dudes that are literally printing your 401k into nothingness.
Is that not a concern to
that's
you?
Not like, I think that's a much bigger for most people, right? Most people are not in constant contact with law enforcement on a daily basis. Mostly that's just dirtbags that deal with. I mean, how many times have you been pulled over or had interaction with cops? I get pulled over somewhat regularly.
I've had a lot of negative interactions with police officers, I'm not going to lie. And then even being perfectly respectful. Dude, from an early age, let's share this quick story. I was 13, so I was just junior high. There was a fight that broke out. Where, you know, what happens when kids fight? Everyone surrounds them and is like watching it. So they break it up or whatever. It's after school when this fight happens. So I don't know if he was a resource officer. I didn't recognize him. He was a cop. And he sees this. He's like, everyone get the fuck out of here. Break it up, break it up. Okay. Yeah, he broke up the fight. And so I'm walking back toward the school because I'm a fucking nerd and I was in chess club. So I had chess club after school and he told me to get the fuck off campus. I was like, I'm going to chess club. I'm supposed to be here. He's like, no, fuck that. Like he was yelling at me, no, fuck that. And he grabbed me as I'm walking away by the back of my neck, lifts me up, dude, and just throws me. You know what I mean? This is as a child. You know what I mean? Like, was that warranted? Probably not.
Probably not.
You know what I mean?
That's pretty. Yeah,
And that's like that was my first interaction as far as like someone like using force from the government on me. You know what I mean? And I've had a few since then, but not nothing that my current employer doesn't know.
Everything's disclosed. It's all good.
Everything's disclosed. But and that's not like I wasn't arrested or anything. But like a cop fucking put hands on me, dude.
Yeah.
Like if I had seen that was my son and I saw a cop do that. Under those circumstances,
right? We're gonna have
some words and probably something more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I mean, clearly that's a violation of whatever he thinks. I don't even know what he would be enforcing there. You know what I mean?
Right. What are you enforcing?
Yeah, what are you enforcing?
Yeah.
You know, like I was in a place I was supposed to be that's publicly funded by my parents at the time.
Yeah, and then you also got like what are the rules governing this? Because this is one of the things that everybody thinks PT instructors just thrash people. We don't actually do that at all anymore.
Depends.
It's all work out at your own pace kind of stuff, like, feelings and hugging and shit.
I was like, was it when I was there?
Well, it wasn't then. Yeah, no, this is a recent change. Okay. But we teach a vast majority of the use of force stuff to these kids coming in. And so
stacking
reasonable, necessary. Yeah. That's what we did this stuff too. But reasonable and necessary, right? And so like reasonable or necessary, I don't think either of those qualified under what
probably not. Yeah. I mean, that was in 2000 probably or 99. I don't know. I graduated high school in 2005. So yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. No shit.
We're the same age, bro.
Yeah.
So like that cop will never be held accountable for that. You know what I mean? Like, and there's I don't even know what the mechanism would be to holding him accountable, but like that stuff happens all the time. But that stuff I agree with you, is less of a concern than like people, starting wars with nuclear powers.
Oh yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem for everybody,
But we're so disconnected from that, we don't realize it. It's easy to see the cop because he's in my neighborhood, he's pulling me over. Right. But like we don't see the DC politicians every day. Not like that. Even though it has more of an impact. And that's why I don't understand. That's what this podcast is trying to do, is trying to get people to pay attention to politics, culture, current events, because people will say they don't matter. Did it feel like it didn't matter during COVID? Because even if you didn't agree with it and didn't go along with it, clearly it mattered, because now you're arguing with cops about masks. That you're not wearing a mask in fucking Wendy's or whatever,
It mattered a whole lot.
100%, dude. Yeah. So now the next thing, it's going to matter, and
I think they're only going to ramp this shit up, right? Like it just keeps they're not even hiding the stuff anymore.
Right.
So they're just outright like, we didn't really think about the Constitution when we're doing this. Excuse me.
Yeah, how can you just say it like that, dude? Like lie to me.
Okay.
Shit.
At least, right? Like at least have the respect that politicians used to have, which was just a lie about everything, right? And then most people don't care about it, right? But like some of us can see through that. But yeah, you tell me to my face that you don't care about the Constitution, and then you're going to try and force something on me.
Yeah.
We're going to start having a serious fucking problem.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's the other thing. You were one of the ones that did not cave to the vaccine stuff, right? Yeah. Well, how did you decide that decision? How did you come to that decision?
Well, so first off, right out the gate, like I don't always know what's true. Like one of the hardest things is to what's true about this stuff. I don't know anything about virus stuff. I don't know anything about. I mean, I know a lot about general health.
I thought you were a doctor.
I was. I got that doctor certificate. I was in the doctor course during this whole thing. I was in the EMT program.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So I was becoming a doctor.
No, I said it was a gynecologist, but a street gynecologist.
A street one. So. I don't always know. I can't always I'm not smart enough to necessarily figure out what's right. But when someone's blatantly lying to you, I take that as a clue. And so even though they're saying this thing's going to be the most deadly thing ever, and out the gate initially, I was like, this might suck. This could be a problem, right? Like we didn't have any information yet. We weren't seeing anything, just the stuff from China. Oh, but this is a great, rewind just a few months prior to that. They come in, I'm at work, and I was working in the flex team, super
SEAL
secret SEAL team flex. Saving the world. We had to turn down the Bin Laden raid and shit to do the important things that we did there. But they came in and they're like, hey, we're going to be especially interested in anybody that's coming from Wuhan, China. Some of the higher ups came in. I'm like, oh, first of all, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Second of all, what are the guys? And they started listening to these questions. So we're going to ask one of the other guys, a real good dude. He's like, if they're from Wuhan, China, we're probably not going to be able to fucking ask them questions. So like, that's a good point, right? That's a good point.
They give you the piece of paper like, what the fuck is this?
What am I supposed to read these characters? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Can you show me how to act it out? Like with this. So right out the gate, I'm just kind of like, I just got the filters out. Like, I'm just looking for information, seeing what's coming on. I'm a pretty healthy guy. I've taken a lot of time to try to get jacked till the recent surgeries, but try to get jacked, be in good health, especially cardiovascular health and stuff for the things that we do. And, just pay attention to that stuff. Like, what's important? How do you eat right, sleep, and work out well? So I'm not really that concerned with the flu. I don't get flu shots. I don't get any of that stuff. So as the information started coming in, it was very clear that the government was lying to us about this shit. Like, they lie pretty much about everything, right? So I've already been in this idea of like, pretty much everything they say is probably going to be a lie if they're talking.
That's the trope, right? How do you know a politician's lying? He's talking.
He's talking, man. He's talking. He's doing something, and you're like, yeah, you should probably be skeptical of everything these motherfuckers say. Yeah. And so we started seeing very quickly and early on that they were still trying to release all the aliens after 2021 was really right. So that's when the vaccine mandate came out, was August-ish of 21. So Trump administration, Title 42, they're trying to kick everybody out, even though there's lots of liberal judges trying to keep them all to stay. Immediately after 2021 started, I don't know what happened early 2021, but everything changed, and they're starting to try and release every single person they can. And so if you've got a deadly virus that's going to kill 80-90% of the population, you probably don't release more people.
But they were vaccinating all these aliens, right?
That's the weird thing. They weren't even required to take a shot. Weird. The only time we ever knew if any of those motherfuckers had COVID was if they, like, famously, one of the, all these gaps in the wall, right? Like, they built this wall, started building it, and then day one of the administration said, no more money, no more time allocated to this thing, even though it was all paid for. Yeah. Some lady or the group crosses over the wall, even though there's all these gaps, like, they could have walked 1 mile and walked in. They climb a 30 fucking foot fence. Somebody falls down and breaks their leg. There's like 6 agents, helping out, trying to get this. I
respect it. They were trying to earn it. They didn't
want they were like, I don't want this easy shit. Like, I'm going to hardcore, man. Hardcore. That person that lady goes to the hospital. All those agents are putting on COVID leave. That's the only reason they knew that person had COVID.
Oh shit.
That's the only time anybody ever knew was when someone went to the hospital because they weren't testing anyone.
Yeah.
No one was getting released. And they were trying to release everybody and send all the buses to Florida and Texas.
There's something in common with those two states.
I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it was. That was especially during 2021. Oh, that's right. You know what? They were not following the mainstream program when it came to locking down and all that other bullshit. Yeah.
Got to amp those COVID numbers up.
Got to pump up those numbers.
Got to pump up rookie numbers.
Yeah. They should have all had a severe winter of illness and death, which they didn't get.
I was waiting for it.
Me
like,
too.
Let's do this,
Yeah, dude.
But you know what it probably was is the winters don't get cold here. So I was just outside in the Ranger panties, just hanging out, waiting for the death. And
just fine. Yeah.
Just didn't come out.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that is a weird time. So you saw that happening and you were like, I'm not taking that shot.
Yeah, I'm not participating in the lie.
Yeah.
That's where what it boiled down to me. These people are lying. And if you're telling me I need to do something from the government, it's probably not for my benefit.
So COVID hit the scene like what, 20, well, technically the first case was November 2020. It was like people who worked at the Wuhan lab, but it didn't really affect us probably till like February, March.
Yeah,
of 2020. And then the vaccine comes out 21, or when did that come out?
I think it came out at the very end of Trump.
Okay.
Because everybody was like, I'm not going to take this Trump vaccine.
Operation
it's
Warp
dangerous.
Speed.
It's dangerous. The Trump vaccine.
People forget.
Fucking 3 days later, they were like, got 3 fucking boosters.
Yeah.
Like,
once the handoff.
Yeah. Then it's all on him,
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I think that's the thing. People would be like, well, how did you know in the beginning? Like, you were just right on accident. It's like, no, dude. No, like, I didn't know it was a scam to begin with,
Right.
but I knew that these people are habitual liars. They don't care about my health and safety. These motherfuckers were telling me to eat bread most of the time, you know, like with the food pyramid or whatever.
The upside down
the
pyramid.
upside down pyramid.
Yeah.
It was all eating all this bread. Like, yeah, I knew these people didn't either know about safety or were incompetent and wanted me to fucking
Right. And either way, I'm not following them.
Either way, I'm not taking my health advice from them.
Yeah.
You know?
And it really, to me, came down, like I was like really ambivalent against it. I have a lot of dudes, still military buddies and stuff. And they're like, you know, the Army gave me so many shots. I just don't really care.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I've heard that argument, but it's like, because you fucked up in the past does not mean you have to keep fucking up.
True. But they just kind of like got to this point where they're like, they just don't care. And and I used to feel that way too until this. Like I mean I don't know how many. I think I got like 4 or 5 times. I got the twin Ricks, they call it, the hepatitis A and B. Because every time I would go in the military to get a new shot, like you have to get a series of 3 shots, and I would get like 1 and 2 series, and then we wouldn't come back to doing that kind of thing for a while, and then it expired, so you got to do the next thing again. I don't know how many times I got that.
Dude, I think when I joined our outfit, like at the academy, they had nurses come and they offered all this shit. I don't know how many shots I got in that first. I got
so many,
quite a few. I felt like shit. I felt like shit for a while. But yeah, like I was 21 or 22. Like there's no fucking way I would like do that now. You know, like
no, I'm not taking another one.
Yeah, like when my daughter was born, when you have a kid, they try to give them all these vaccines. They try to rub like this shit in their eyes
right away
immediately. They try to give them vitamin K shots, which I guess there's an argument for that, because something to do with blood clotting or something. I can't remember what vitamin K is for, but and they try to give them their hepatitis vaccines like pretty quick, immediately almost. But the hepatitis, if you know anything about that, it's sexually transmitted, or like you get it from like playing with fecal matter, other like infected person's fecal matter. Like, if my wife had a clean STD panel, why are you trying to shove all these vaccines into them?
Yeah.
For this clean thing that we clearly don't have? You know what I mean? Like if you did, if you tested her, which they did. That's the other thing. My wife gave birth to my daughter July 2020. 2020.
Whoa.
So yeah, dude, like were
you guys in bubble suits and shit?
No, did
they quarantine the baby from you?
Like my wife's water broke. I think we're at actually Casey's house at Kinley's. Anyway, so we go to the hospital, and they're telling her that she has to take a COVID test. And I think I had to take a COVID test, or they wanted me to take a COVID test. And I'm like, so what if it's positive? They're like, well, you're not going to be allowed to be in the room. I'm like, the fuck I'm not. Like, I will take her out of here right now, and we're going to have a home birth, like I was fucking 100. Thankfully, I think she had a negative test, or I don't even know if they tested her, but they didn't test me. I refused. I'm like, I was ready to I'm like, you're going to have to, I'll fight a hospital security guard.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Like, that's the other thing. Hospitals, man, people forget, like, that's a business. It's just a private business.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I mean, well, relatively private. The government's pretty involved in them, but they don't own you. You know, they can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Walmart. It'd be like Walmart saying, you have to stay because you have COVID. It's like, well, make me.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'll fight a Walmart employee over some shit like that. Like,
I don't see too many jack dudes rolling around.
Even
Walmart
if they're aware, it's
fight,
like, all right, well, I'm gonna die on this hill, and you work. Do you really? I don't know how much you're getting paid for by this hospital. It's not gonna be enough.
Yeah. This is gonna be ugly.
Yeah, it's gonna be ugly. Anyway, so that was the whole thing during the week. She gave birth July 2020, and it was the heart of the COVID. But anyway, so my wife, she was going through nursing school. She was doing her like preceptorship in February of 2020. And so she was like in the hospitals and pregnant, super pregnant with my daughter. And she woke up before she went to nursing school, she wasn't really like hip to propaganda. Like maybe the government's doesn't have her best interest at heart. She wasn't really hip to all that, but the COVID shit woke her up immediately.
Oh, yeah, good.
And now, like by the time my daughter was born, she's like arguing with nurses, like, nah, we're not doing that. You're not injecting them with that. She doesn't need that. Like all this stuff. And you think they treat anti-vaxxers bad. Imagine being in the medical field and being not an anti-vaxxer, but like being skeptical of some of the treatments they give. Yeah. Like they kind of look at you like real crazy. Because I saw when she was going through school, like they don't really teach you like, if someone's vaccine hesitant, you'd be like, oh, they're peer reviewed. You're not taught to go through all this shit. You're just supposed to, they teach you propaganda.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
hit their emotions.
Exactly.
Try to scare them.
Yeah. This is the best way to protect your child and all this shit. It's like, why? Why? Show me something. Show me something.
Yeah,
Like, what are the risks?
I don't care
all
what
of
you
it,
say.
know?
Show me something that proves what you're saying.
But people will just be like, okay, well, they're the hospital, they're the
They
professionals, they're
right?
the experts. But then COVID was like, well, fuck, all these experts were lying to us about all kinds of shit, and they were demonstrably wrong about stuff, and they just refused. Like Anthony Fauci is still a free man, like. He's out there. I mean, likely he was part of funding the fucking Wuhan lab.
100%.
You know, like, yeah, I would say 100% as well. But we know that to be the case. He suffered no consequences from that.
None.
You know, none.
In fact, he's the highest paid federal employee.
Yeah, he was at the time.
And I'm sure his pension reflects that now.
For sure, yeah. And this guy was telling you, first, masks don't work. And then he says he lied about that because he didn't want there to be a rush on masks, which is a fucking pretty evil thing to do anyway. But
just the fact that you're willing to lie to everybody.
Yeah, it just shows that you're willing to lie and then that you were still around. That's one of the biggest things Trump fucked up on. Yep. He should have got rid of that motherfucker. Yeah. A few people, but definitely Fauci. Because I think he was aware. I think I heard somebody told me like he was aware that Fauci was a shitbag from back in the 80s when he was dealing with the AIDS stuff. Like he wrote an article or did an op-ed or something in the New York Times about it, or something like that. Like he was aware that Fauci was a weasel, but kept him on anyway. I don't know why. Yeah, so
when he fired other people like every other week, he had a new guy in certain spots.
His celebrity show was like firing people.
He should have just, he would have had the entire American people on board if he would have just like made a show out of that, right? Put in the Oval Office, called people in and fired him like that. Everybody,
once
he
went on TV, Fauci went on TV saying he lied about the mask. Trump should have been like, well, people aren't going to trust you anymore. You got to get the fuck out of here.
Right. That's the only answer. You can't lie to people's face and then just expect them to trust you in the next thing, right? But this time I'm telling you the truth.
That doesn't work.
Are
like
you?
That. Yeah.
Are you? You might fool the people that want to think that you've got the best interest, right? But like, you're not going to fool anybody that's thinking for themselves.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm telling you, I told you about that guy that's going to come on.
Yeah.
I really want to deep dive into the psychology and of what happened to people during that pandemic. Because like there were people we worked with that lost their fucking minds, like wearing PPE in their personal car by themselves, like because they were just fucking terrified, or I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I wonder if people are more fit now after that because they realized how bad a shape they were in.
I don't think so, man. I think that you get some people, right? But like, shouldn't that have been the most thing that they're pushing? Hey, how about you get fucking in shape? Because if you're in shape, you're less likely to die.
Which we knew early. We knew that early, very early. But nobody wants to say that.
Yeah, and it's just general understanding, right? If you're fit, you are less likely to be killed by whatever it is that happens. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're not going to die by something, right? Like I actually had a rough run with COVID. I think it's because I had asthma as a kid. And so it kind of got my lungs a little bit, but still, I don't care.
Is it the worst sickness you ever had or?
No, it was extremely mild sickness. Okay. I just got the shortness of breath for an extended period of time. So it didn't even bother me. If I wasn't running, wouldn't have bothered me.
So I got a headache real bad the first night. And then I think by like day 4, day 5, I was like, I'm going to work out.
Yeah. I ran the first day when I woke up with symptoms. I knew right away. I was like, that guy, there's a guy at work the night previous before. I'm like, son of a bitch. This guy got me the vid. And I was like, what? Fuck this. I'm going to go for a run. And so I went and I ran. Maybe it made it worse, but I don't know. So
funny when I got my test done at the urgent care. Cause I knew, I was exposed or whatever at work. I was exposed. But I was like, I feel kind of like off. Like, I was really working out hard at the time. So I kind of knew my body, like something just feels like I'm dragging. Yeah. So I go get my test at the urgent care. And it's so funny. The nurse practitioner's like, she comes in, like she just gave me an AIDS diagnosis. She's like, I'm sorry, but the test is positive. Like, it was like that. Like, I'm sorry, but the test is positive. She apologized.
There's nothing we could do.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, there's only a 99% chance I'm going to survive.
Looks like I got a few days off work coming up.
Yeah,
like
according to at that time, I think I wasn't getting the full like 14 days or whatever. It was 10 days. I think that's what they gave.
That's what I got to.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, it was just I'm interested in seeing how everyone's minds just fucking broke. Not everybody, but a lot of people's minds.
A lot of people.
I got into screaming matches with some. I'll tell you off air.
Yeah.
Who screaming matches about masks and all this shit. And this was like deep into like 2021. Yeah, dude.
We all knew it was fucking over and a joke by that point, right? Even though the mandate was still, in fact, only started, right? Real late into the game, but Pfizer had to make their money off that.
I'll tell you this other person who came up to me is in a leadership position. He left where we're at now, but you might recognize who you were.
I already know.
So anyway, he goes like, hey, you're supposed to have your mask on here. And I'm like, I look at him, I look around, like no one's wearing masks. And I think he just had his gator up like this. And I'm like, all right, man. Cool. And I didn't put my mask on. I was like, all right, cool. I mean, you told me I'll say you told me, or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, what? You're such a coward that you got to come up and be like, oh, somebody's going to get in trouble over this. Get the fuck out of here. We literally take risk for a job, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to die, I'm just going to fucking die. Like, I'm going to do what I can to not let that happen. But that's why I work out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lay down and just die over something. But you're telling me, how many guys get exposed to TB, scabies, all kinds of shit coming across this border every fucking day. Yeah. And what now? Because everybody else got scared about something, we're supposed to care? I just didn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to die or I'm not.
It's not the most dangerous thing that I've ever done in my line of work.
Yeah, I've done way sketchier things, just for fun.
Yeah, dude. Like, I think you just realized how, like, I don't know, maybe soft or fragile people are. Like,
yeah,
I really think that's what it was, man.
What? Before I want to really get into the cowardice from our own people, but with the whole mask thing, like everybody was like in muster and shit wearing masks, and they're like, you guys got to have your masks on, and I'm like, I'm not doing that shit. I'm just not fucking doing it, man. Well, you go pretend with somebody else, but I'm not pretending. We're like, we all know what's going on, and they'll even say it. We know this is stupid and it doesn't work, but somebody else dictated we got to do this, and like, so like they were so adamant about it. So I would grab a mask and I'd put in my fucking coffee cup. And I'd just sit in muster and just sip coffee. I'd set it down and then just sip coffee. When I'd put it on my fucking coffee cup. Like,
and what they say, people would be like, it's not that big a deal. Just put it on. It's like, it's not that big a deal. And it's like,
you're right. It's not that big of a deal.
But it is a big deal to me because like the principle of it is like, I am doing this virtue signal of a thing I don't believe in. And you got me to do something I don't believe in.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So stop fucking worrying about the mask thing. Just stop saying it, right? It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So like, we all know it doesn't protect you.
Yeah.
It's not protecting me. It's not protecting you. So stop fucking playing this game.
It's actually worse than you got me to do something that I don't believe in. You don't believe in it either. And you got me to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
that's the biggest, dude. And I think this is a part that all fed into, why I just simply outright refused over the mandate stuff was all of that. Right. The second I'd read a lot of the Jordan Peterson stuff, listened to all of his talks. Like, I know some people from Jordan Peterson.
He's not perfect. People expect perfection from everyone they listen to.
From everybody. Right.
If you're listening to this, guess what? I'm a fucking mess. So
I'm a psychopath. I mean, so all this stuff, what he was talking about, the things that he talks about a lot are like that thing. Don't ever let somebody make you do something you don't believe in. Don't say something you don't believe in. There was like, I think it was him that I was listening to on one of his podcasts where he talked about some of the shit that they did in Vietnam to some of the POWs that got captured. And like, they would just start with this thing. They just wanted them to write down a story that wasn't true. Like, it was crazy how small it was and trivial it was. It wasn't about their capture. It wasn't like, oh, we're being treated well. It was just something real small. Once they get you to do something like that, it's fucking over. You're on that slip to like, you're going to do anything. Yeah. You're that frog in the boiling water.
So I think it might've been him that I heard this from, but it was like, how do you not be a guard at Auschwitz? You have to decide that way down before you're loading people on the boxcars. You can't make the decision then. It's too late.
It's too late.
You've got to make the decision when they're like, hey, put this brown shirt on. We're going to go fucking fuck up a bunch of businesses. Let it run by.
Yeah. It's 1,000 steps before it gets to that.
Dude. So like, it's not one step in that direction. And so
one step.
That's what I viewed the masks were. It's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Wear a mask. Like but it is a big deal when you think of it in that context. Right. Like, I'm not one step toward this compulsion of totalitarianism. Like, I'm not going along with something nobody believes just because you want to exert some kind of authority.
Yeah, it's the test though too, right? It's like you're gonna raise your hand, right? You're gonna give the salute, right? Yeah. And that's all they want you to do, right? Right now, that's all we're asking. We just want that salute. And if you start doing that, it's a thing. Not one step in that direction. Yeah. If you set that up in that way, like you can use this in any context you want, right? Like I use the same thing in my marriage. Like, I don't take any step in a direction that's going to lead me away from my wife. Like, I'm not taking a step that's going to lead me into cheating on my wife in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Like, it's going to be 1,000 steps way before anybody else thinks it's ever a problem. Like, I know that's going to be it leads to everything's going somewhere. And so if you're not, if you don't understand that, and you're just taking actions just because somebody else wants you to take an action. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to go along with shit, right? Like, you can't do that on everything, right? Like, I don't want to go to the checkpoint today.
But it's a general principle.
It's a principle, right? Like, when there's something like, and you got to start paying attention to yourself too. When there's something that you're like, I don't agree with this. That's where you got to start paying attention, right? Why do you have a moral objection to something? Yeah, you do. Jordan Peterson said this thing that really sticks to me. We said, when you have something to say, silence is a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Because not doing something is actually doing something.
Yeah.
It is.
100%.
People don't think of that, but it really is. So if you're silent when someone's doing something, like if you're beating the shit out of a child right there in front of me and I'm not doing anything, it's like, I'm not beating the child up, but I also just sat there and watched it happen.
Yeah.
So that is a choice.
You're no better.
I'm no
you
better.
Right? In fact, you might be worse because you're a coward, right?
Yeah. At least like I had the bravery to put the boots to that kid. No.
Yeah. But you knew it was wrong and you didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
Like that's because you can't. It's not the politicians that are destroying America. It's everybody sitting around letting them get away with it. Because you can't. Those guys. I have lots of arguments with people about cowardice and stuff like that. Because I call our own people cowards. 100%. The people at the top. Everybody giving the orders, and to a certain point, all of us, right? Like cowards. We all know certain things that we shouldn't be doing, and most of us are trying to stay away from that stuff. But as a whole, the organization is just filled with cowards. And it's being led by cowards. And so everybody, no, it's these other people that do. No. The administration's doing exactly what they told us they're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're the people that are supposed to stand up against that.
Yeah.
And so
the people who got the shot, like the ones that believed in it, there's a few, I can name a few people that were like, oh, I really believe it's going to protect me, whatever. But the people that didn't want it and then got it,
that's a problem.
Those are the people. Yeah. Those are the people I think you're talking about, man. Because that's just,
100%. You're walking that line to be that guard, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're already on your way. Like, you basically gave up your body for something that you don't even believe in. It's like, shit, man. Yeah. Without any payoff, really. Like, what was even the payoff? You weren't protected. Now you have
a day off work, bro. Or maybe it was 4 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, toward the end there, I don't even think it was a full day. Unless you got sick from it, then
Yeah. If you got disabledly sick from the shot,
there's a guy I can think of right now who's having some heart issues.
Yeah, I've heard of you.
He knows it's directly related because he didn't have it before and he got it pretty quick after getting the Moderna, I think. But anyway, this episode is going to get pulled from YouTube because the last one I did with the doctor, a literal fucking medical doctor, got pulled immediately from YouTube. Of course. Yeah.
Misinformation.
That's what they call it, which is a badge of honor at this point. So this will be strike number 3. So we'll lose the YouTube channel. I don't care. I was always planning on it. But everywhere else is cool. That's what I'm saying. In a free market, you just need one. Rumble, X, somebody like
something cares.
Spotify. Yeah, dude, like they've lost control of the gates to information now. The internet it's a dam. They're trying to put their fingers in it by like prosecuting.
You see them losing their mind over it too.
Dude, like, because all you need is one alternative point of view and their whole narrative just falls fucking apart. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you just need one Robert Malone out there saying like, hold on, like this technology was not developed to be given to everybody. You know what I mean? Like all at once. It was supposed to be tailored, specific for whatever, using it for cancer or whatever, not just like blanket. Everyone gets the same dose across billion people, Yeah. Yeah. So, they're trying to put their fingers in the dam by, prosecuting Assange, prosecuting Snowden, prosecuting, Aaron that was on here, episode 5.
Did they try to prosecute him?
Yeah. Well, he got fired. I don't know if he actually had any legal repercussions. He was at least terminated. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Which is more than any of us. And that was a big thing too about the whole shot thing. A good buddy of mine, he was fighting with us too. And he said outright at the end, he's like, if it comes down to the very end, he's like, I'm not going to lose this job. But he's like, until that day, we had the conversations, but he's like, until that day I'm fighting. He's like, I'm not going to give up. And he's like, cause it's just a threat of a threat. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a threat. It was like, if you don't do this, we're going to start the process.
Yeah. But that was stressful. It was stressful.
Oh, it was. It was 100% stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful. And it's still coercion. It's still immoral.
It's still coercion, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know a couple of people too that said like, hey, we'll go all the way up until the end, but at the end of the day, I'll get the shot. Because what they do, they threatened your family. That's what they did. Yeah. Your ability to provide for your family, your wife, your children, people that depend on you.
Because then you got to look at the other side, outside of it too. Like, well, where can I go get a fucking job? Because they're trying to stop anyone from working at all without this thing.
Yeah. Anyone who had more than 100 employees and all this shit. Like,
yeah. Because if you have less than that, it's okay to spread the COVID.
I guess.
Right? If you're the government, it's okay to spread it to like Florida and Texas. But if you personally don't want that, fuck you, you're putting everyone in danger.
Yeah, I think it really is, man. I think you're right. It's cowards. That is the epidemic. That's why I want to talk to that psychologist next week. Yeah. I mean, I really want to know how people, he's writing a book and this guy's name is Jason Christoph. And it's just, there's a certain percentage of the population that is actually resistant to propaganda. I would love to know what that is and what do they all have in common, you know? I think it's probably going to be people who have a firm set of morals and principles. Like they have it well established in their head or well developed in their head. They know why they make their choices. Because a lot of people just are on autopilot making choices. Well, that seems right to me or that seems wrong to me. You know, like
I used to do that. And so like we talked about this a little bit before. And that was one of the things I was like, I have to sit back and think about it. Like, when did that change for me? Because I used to go through, I grew up, I don't say grew up religious. I kind of found religion a little bit. Yeah. I went to church a lot as a kid, but my parents were dirtbags. So it's kind of like, I'm seeing the other side of that right away.
Yeah.
But I latched to it real early on.
Yeah.
I latched to a lot of those principles, values, but I still went through just kind of like doing shit. Like I didn't have those firm principles. Like, this is why I make decisions.
Yeah.
And this is what I believe. This is what I do. It was like, I kind of adopted it. I kind of adopted like Christianity. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And like, when it served me, I was like, yeah. But when, I want to go bang this chick, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, and so.
Oh, sorry. He was fired by DHS.
Along the way, actually, it was probably about 5-6 years ago. I ran into a circumstance where I really decided to get clear on the principles and what I believed myself. Yeah. And so like I went through a big process, and I tell people how to do this now, like I'm not a fucking guru about it, but like, well, I mean, like, how do you get clear on these things? So like I sat and I literally wrote down everything. I wrote out the things I believed. What is it that, how am I going to make decisions in my life and govern my, like, what do I actually believe rather than like letting someone else tell me that I should believe?
Yeah.
That was a huge defining moment in my life. And I lost all the like incongruencies and lack of integrity that I used to have and things like, cause like, anyway, I won't say some of this stuff. There were things that I would do that were like absolutely against what my own personal sense of morality and integrity. And then I would always kind of be like, well, I'm a good person. Like, why do I do that? And it was because I wasn't clear to myself on what is it that I believe and what am I going to do and not do? Yeah. And how do I make those decisions? And once I got that clarity, it changed so much. So how did you develop that for yourself?
I mean, just to touch on something you said real quick before I go into that. I think that's why states in general, government in China, North Korea, all these things, they really go hard at religion, because religion does give you a foundation. Mm-hmm. If you don't come up with it on your own, that's like a pre-made model of right and wrong or foundational principles that you can stick to. And that is in direct contradiction to a lot of times what the state wants to do. You know what I mean? 100%. If they want you to go murder some people overseas and you are a Christian, you're going to have to really articulate that to a Christian person, like someone who really believes why you want me to go kill somebody. Yeah. It's not just going to be like, well, these people, they're going to take over they're going to take over Taiwan or whatever. Like, it's like, okay, that's not,
I'm not doing like, that for that. Yeah.
Just like the state sees religion as a competition. Mm-hmm. I guess you might say like a competing value system or competing maybe propaganda network. I don't know what you want to call it, but like they see people who have morals, and that's a direct impediment to them controlling you.
Yes.
So that's why they don't like them in a lot of these totalitarian regimes. And you see our kind of states going that way too. There is, during COVID, they cracked down on a lot of religions.
You couldn't, pastors couldn't go.
That's fucking wild, bro. That is wild.
I made a decision. I'm still super religious. I still have those beliefs and stuff. I don't go to church as often as I used to, but I made a decision very early on. You're not arresting me for going to church. This is my fucking country. I spent time in. Yeah. You're not doing that.
If you talk to most religious people, like that's why the state doesn't like it, I think generally, is because people will say God, then country. You know what I mean? Then or God, family, country, however the order goes. But typically God is, or whatever religious figure is above.
First,
Yeah, is above that. And they don't like that. Yeah. Because that's not
it's gotta be the president.
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up Catholic, hardcore Catholic, went to church. I was an altar server. I went to Catholic school for a lot of years. But I'm a non-religious person now. I'm not, I would say an atheist because I don't believe in a higher power, but I'm agnostic as far as like, there could be a higher power. I don't know. But so I came to my principles with that foundation of, I guess you can say Judeo-Christian I grew up with those lessons as a child. Some of them resonated, some of them didn't. But I look at freedom is one of the highest things for me. Personal liberty. With personal liberty comes responsibility. And who's responsible for me is me. Like I'm responsible. 100%. So when you're telling me I have to take this shot to protect other people, it's like, well, I want to protect other people, but like it should be my decision who I'm going to protect and how I'm going to protect them. Like you can't make me protect somebody. Yeah. Like let alone myself. Like I don't agree with forcing someone to do something against their will. If they're a peaceful person. So like I might have been okay with taking a shot if they could articulate to me and convince me that would save my life, save my kids' lives and all this shit. Like, but they didn't.
They didn't even attempt that path.
Well, they did, but it was bullshit. And once you called out the bullshit, then they were like, all right, well, if you don't believe
you're
that,
an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, you're an anti-vaxxer. Now, we tried the carrot. Now we're going to use the stick,
Oh, and it went quick to the stick.
Yeah, right? Dude. Yeah. So I look at things from the non-aggression principle. I'm a libertarian. So like I look at things from the non-aggression principle of private property rights, meaning you don't initiate force on peaceful people and, you can own property, including your body. That's your private property. And that's, so if you violate someone's property rights, you're aggressing on them. So my body's mine. You're trying to make me take the shot against my will. I view that as an aggression. I say no. Yeah, I refuse. Yeah. If I consented, that's different. But I'm saying no, I don't want it. Yeah. And you want me to take it, and now you're trying to coerce me to take it. Yeah. I mean, so
wait, you didn't take the donut?
No. Yeah. I didn't take the donut. So anyway, like that was kind of how I evaluated that that whole thing. That and what I said in the beginning, they're no liars. So like I didn't trust them to begin with. Fauci or even Trump, any of these guys. I didn't, the politicians, like I didn't think they had my best interest at heart. You know what I mean? I don't think they really care about me or my family.
They're willing to sacrifice
100%. They're willing to sacrifice me.
And everyone else to get whatever it is.
Yeah, well, now we've seen that for money or their own financial gain, like I think Thomas Sowell, who's an economist, he said, politics is politicians convincing the nation that their own self-interests are in the interest of the nation, something like that effect. But yeah, so my morals, I have a moral system, you know what I mean? Like I had that well established before this happened. Yeah. So I kind of already knew, like once someone told me you need to take a shot. Why do I need to take a shot? Well, because it'll keep you from getting the virus. Okay. Is there any evidence for that? Yeah. Joe Biden said it. You know what I mean? Right. Rachel Maddow said it. I was like, well, that's not going to be good enough. Yeah. So if you want me to do
anybody
it,
else?
You have to convince me because you're not going to be able to force me.
Right.
Because I view it as immoral if you use force against me.
Yeah. Well, I got the ability to use force right back. So
exactly. You meet force with force. That's what happens. So like if someone's going to hold me down and inject me, well, you're going to have to kill me.
Yeah.
You're going to have to kill me. They could have made a convincing argument. I'm open to being convinced.
Well, they could have, right? Imagine if this was an actual shot that would protect you from protect you against Ebola, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to convince anyone.
If I'm seeing people bleeding out of their eyes in the streets, it's like, oh shit. You know what I mean?
Hey, if that's going to kill me 50% chance, like, what's the chance the shot kills me? 25? Yeah. Okay, whatever, man. Let's try it.
Once I got COVID, it was like, there is no argument anymore from you that you're making to me that's going to convince me. I already had it.
But then if you get it again, it'll be less serious, right?
Oh yeah, that's stupid fucking argument, dude. Imagine how many people, do you remember when the chief sent out his message? What do you say?
He was like, I just got COVID. I'm so glad I had that vaccine though, because it was less serious.
It could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
So mine was really mild. Yours was relatively mild. So if you had got the vaccine, you wouldn't have noticed it? Like, okay, how could you prove that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know?
You can't, right? Because the only trial that they were actually going to do on this stuff, they in effect negated within a few weeks because they said it was immoral to not give the shot to everyone. So they gave the shot to the control group. So they vacated the entire fucking study.
Defeats the whole purpose of a placebo-controlled double-blind study.
Right. And then tell me that you don't want us to know the results of this, right? Like there's no clear way to know that you don't want us to see what's going to happen with this than that, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much. And then you make them, you give the protections to these companies for legal liability if something goes wrong because of the emergency authorization, which is why they ended up going so hard after all the other treatments, ivermectin. Yeah. I took ivermectin. I mean,
I did too.
Yeah, like
I got a little late though, so I don't think it really helped.
All the other treatments, like they were saying, well, ivermectin, that can't be on the table because if there's one other alternate treatment, then they lose their emergency authorization status.
Yeah.
They couldn't have kept that. That's why they went so hard at it.
Yeah.
The propaganda machine, calling it horse paste and
wild.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
it's been used for, hey, maybe it was used for that once, but like it's been used 40 billion doses given in Africa?
A guy won a
for
Nobel
stuff?
Prize or something. Like
Yeah.
he it cures river blindness or some parasite. It's an
it's a
anti-parasite.
parasite, eye parasite.
So
in Africa.
yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, so my morals, like, it's good that you wrote it out on paper. I wish more people would do that.
Yeah.
Because people, like, when you talk about their moral systems, unless they're like deeply religious people, like people are like, they don't know why they really make their decisions.
They don't know why, and then when you don't know your why, it's real easy to convince you to do something you don't want to do because you're just like, oh well. I got real fucking clear because I went through some hard times, and I was like, and you know what made me do that was because I realized what caused those hard times. It was fucking me. Yeah. I did it to myself because I wasn't clear on some things and I just made some dumb decisions. Yeah. So like, well, I was like, well, I'm going to I don't know. I was just doing it blindly. I'm like, I got to reevaluate this stuff. And I reevaluated a lot of the religious stuff and just personal things too. And it really, I think having the religious foundation really helped because it gave me something, again, like you were saying, as a framework or something to start with. Yeah. And I accepted most of those things back into my value system, but I got to choose them. Rather than being told that this is what you're supposed to do.
Dictated to you.
Yeah. And that makes it more stronger when you choose those beliefs. You're like, yes, this is something that I'm going to adhere to. Yeah. And have you ever read Joseph Campbell at all?
No.
Dude, he's got some good shit. And it came, I forget what podcast I was listening to. He's got a couple books. The Power of Myth is huge. It's a great book. He talks about, I'm going to butcher this completely.
That's okay.
Someone
will make fun of you in the comments.
Yeah, they're like, dude, this idiot doesn't know this story. He talks about, I think it's an Indian proverb or some shit like that.
Like dots or feathers?
Dot. No, feathers.
Okay.
Feathers.
Oh, shit.
Feathers.
Okay.
Like Native American. That's what I should have said. Don't cancel me. Native American stuff that like, it would make more sense from, anyway, that it's likening a boy as he's growing up to a camel and the overloading of that camel, just burdening it down and down and down and down. And he says, and it make this connection to, it's the rules that you learn as a young man to follow those rules and just burden you down with those things. And he says, when it goes off into the desert, it emerges from that desert, a lion, and the strength of that lion is directly correlated to those rules that it learned to follow as a boy. But you throw away all the shit that doesn't serve you, and you choose to keep the things that do, but now they're yours, and it makes you stronger. I think it's kind of like, I'll get you the actual story.
Yeah,
so that doesn't make a lot of fucking sense.
So what would you say is the main lesson out of it then?
When you're
what
young,
did you take away?
When you're young, like
talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm retarded.
when you're young, when you're like learning something, follow all the rules, right? Yeah. So like whether that's the religion thing, whether it's I mean, it can be the new guy in a department, right? You follow all those rules. They're there for a reason.
Oh, I see.
They teach you, they make you stronger. You're better for it. And now when you reach your own level of maturity, you can discard the ones that don't serve you. Like the biggest one I discarded, like the whole religious stuff. I'm like, I don't like that thing about not swearing. Yeah. I like to fucking cuss. So, really there's some times that fuck is the only way to illustrate something. So
Bruce Lee wrote a book called Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and it basically, his premise was like, you should take everything that works, make it your own, and discard the rest. Yeah. That's unnecessary. Trim all the fat. Like, cause everyone,
I think same idea.
Yeah. Everyone that's fighting is like the way you're going to fight, because you're different, you're built different. You have different proclivities. Like you're maybe you have more upper body strength, like your longer reach, whatever, you'll use that. Like you're gonna like or be better at different things than I will be better at. So if we both try to force it, like you have to fight the way I fight. Yeah. That's gonna be, you're not gonna reach your maximum potential. Right. You know what I mean? So like you should just take what is useful, disregard the rest, and take from as many sources as possible. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like learn to do it this way, and then make it your own.
And exactly. Make it your own.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I really think that, hey, I just want to say thanks for coming on here, but like, dude, I'm proud of you for standing up to one of the biggest propaganda campaigns ever. And I was under the same amount of pressure you're under. So I know that was not a small thing. And we talk about cowards. Maybe you've been a coward before in your life at some point. We all probably have, but like you weren't a coward on this, dude.
And the thing about like cowardice is contagious, but so is courage on the other side of that, right? And so like the more you got around, like, you know, they made you feel like you were alone, right? Like I was in the EMT program and everybody else was like, yeah, we already fucking got these shots. I'm like,
You're
like,
the only one? Yeah.
no, it was me and another guy, you know, too. And we were like, dude, what? I was losing my mind every day. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, how's nobody willing to stand up on this stuff? And, but then you we find each other out, right? And you're like, oh, okay. All right. So there's a lot more of us than we think. They just want us to think that we're all alone.
Yeah. If they were winning, the propaganda wouldn't be necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like, if they had an argument, right? If they had an argument.
Yeah. So there wasn't that many of us, but hopefully the next time, because there will be a next time. Yeah. There's going to be a next time. I mean, who knows what it'll be.
They lost their card. They played that card now. And so like at first, like, you know, it was actually stressful, right? It was like, I'm going to lose this job. Like I liked it. After a few years, I really started to like what we do. It was kind of fun for a long time. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just doing the detailing stuff that I do out and just getting to work out all the time. It was like, this is great. You know, I make way better money than I ever thought we'd make in law enforcement. Of course, you know? And when they played that card, I had to just come to terms with it. Like, okay, they're just going to fire me then. Like, you know, I have to stand up for something. And if I don't stand for what I believe in, then I'm not, you're not worth wearing a badge or any of that stuff anyway.
Yeah. How much are your principles worth? You know what I mean? Some people said they were worth $100,000 a year or whatever, you know, they're making. Like some people decided, that's what it's worth. And I think like, cause a lot of people's argument was like, well, I think of my kids. I have to think of my kids. I would have refused it because of my kids. Like I will want them to grow up in a world where that's going to be what happens to them. Like if they don't go along with this bullshit that everyone knows is bullshit, they just get fired. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like
who's going to, is your kid supposed to stand up for you? Like what the fuck is this game? Right? Like we'll just put it off. Well, we'll just let them deal with the next round of it. Like I've had the same conversation with the things that we do now. Like, you know, we're releasing terrorists, you know, like, so all the guys that we just killed in 20 years of war fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. Sorry guys, but we're just letting the terrorists into the country now. Like, I know we told you we fight them over there so they don't come here.
Well, not only that, we give the Taliban Blackhawks and fucking all these
kinds of guns, like,
shit.
You know, like, so they're saying all this stuff we're releasing all these people. Nobody's willing to stand up. We've got dudes with all this shit in their collar that think that their role in management is a privilege that they get to then push down onto us and say, you guys do what we tell you to do. When it's supposed to be the other way around. Leadership is a responsibility. You're supposed to take care of the mission first and primarily, and then the men, right? Like you're supposed to take care of those things. And none of these people are willing to stand up. And these guys are like, yeah, but you got to understand what you're asking them. You're asking them to lose their job over it. Like, damn straight I am.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you in that position for? You're like, this is like being a bodybuilder and you can't do 10 push-ups.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude?
So I think they get selected in that position because they won't stand up. 100%. But our number one, well, he's gone now, but he was our number one. He was one of the people that was like, I'm not taking that. And when it came down to it, he took it.
Really?
Yes. Anyway, so the leadership thing, like, when they would say like, well, if I stand up, I lose my pension. I lose everything. I've got 20 years in. I'm a 15 or whatever. Like I'm a
that's
high rank. Well, even like, let's say if it was true, oh, I'm risking more than you. It's like, no, you're not. I'm risking 100% of my job and I'm risking 100% and you're risking 100% of your job.
Same thing.
Even if you make more money than me. Yeah. It's 100% to you. It's 100% to me. It's 100%. You know what I mean? Like we're losing the exact same thing. We're losing our career, you know, like.
And even so then it's required of you. It's required of you if you think yourself as a leader, your entire job is to support they're not going down the line and doing any chasing down anybody. We do that. Yeah. Their job is to take care of us. Yeah. And it's supposed to be.
Did that ruin that illusion for you? Cause that's like,
that was gone a long time before that. All right. Cause you watch these people and they're just all cowards. And clowns. They like to say things. Yeah. They like to talk, but I like some of them. We have pretty good supervisors. We have pretty good management, but we don't have leaders. We don't have leadership.
What is the difference to you?
The difference, management's positional. So you can put something on someone's collar and say they're in charge of you, but leadership is influence based. Yeah. So there are dudes that we work with that like, I'll follow that guy to hell. Yeah. If he says we're going and doing this, I'm like, let's fucking go, dude. But they're like,
Mark, if you're listening to this, you're one of those guys. You were one of those guys. Hell yeah. But he's not with us anymore.
In a good way. Like
in a good way. He didn't die. He didn't die. I don't think. That's since I last talked to him.
Still good. Yeah. But like that's the difference is like a leader. We would always say this in the military. It's like you'd have guys that wouldn't want to promote up And then obviously people that did promote, some of them shouldn't have been there, but like the responsibility is you've learned enough. You're competent enough at your position. It's your job to now take care of these guys, to take care of the guys underneath you. That's the whole premise in the at least in the combat arms section of the military. It's like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of the guys underneath you. Those guys weren't like, if they take care of us, we'll kill ourselves. We have killed ourselves in the mountains, falling down. How many injuries do you have, man? Like, I mean, these are only first 2 surgeries I have for this job, but like, there's been a lot.
Yeah, dude, I've been thrown off an ATV. You know what I mean? Like, shit happens. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. You're right there. I agree with, I just want to know what your opinion was on between management and leaders. Like, there's a difference. There's a clear difference. There is. A leader is, I think, the respect. They say you respect a position, and that's kind of to a degree. But
I don't do it.
You don't go above and beyond just for a position.
I don't even say sir to these people anymore. You're like, you're a bunch of fucking cowards, man. Don't come to me and tell you like you dictate things down to me. Like, are you willing to go do any of the shit that we do? No, you sit in a fucking office, clown. So go make another balloon, for your higher up.
Well, I haven't forgotten who's who from this COVID thing. Because there's like these people were always authoritarians, always totalitarians, always yes men. They were always that. But now the mask got ripped off and you know who's who now. Like you know who's who. Like people who are saying, well, I won't be a guard at Auschwitz. Turns out you will.
Turns out you already were.
Exactly. You were worse than that. Like you were fighting the people who were fighting being the guards at Auschwitz. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, dude. So I don't know.
It's wild.
It is wild. It was a wild time.
Back to the thing that I was talking run back to the whole, like, for our kids thing. That one of these supervisors was telling me, like, we're asking these guys to risk their job, their position. And I'm like, yes, we are. And that's what they deserve for being in that position, right? You have to be that person to say, yes is yes, no is no, right is right, and wrong is wrong. But like, think about like this, like, you want to talk about doing it for your kids. Well, what happens when they're living in a world where they're getting raped and murdered by illegal aliens that we let in? Are you just going to shrug your shoulders if that's your daughter? No, it's because it's some girl in New York. It's fine though. It's fine. Her family doesn't care about her. Well, like everybody else, we're just supposed to sit here. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're the blue-haired freaks that don't know what gender they are. It doesn't matter if it's just some regular dude back in Ohio. Like, everybody expects us to do our fucking job, regardless of if they vote for the opposite. They still expect it, right? They don't want their hometown. They don't want someone they care about to be raped and murdered by an illegal. They don't want someone they care about to be caught up in a vest going off at a mall. They don't want that. So they need us to do our job. Our management, like, we need our management to have our backs while we're out doing ours. And the biggest thing to me, probably the biggest thing, is like, dude, all these kids, right? Like what the other guy was talking about, all these kids that are being sent across, like, dude, they need us more than anyone does.
Yeah, they're vulnerable. You're supposed to protect people. That's what it is to be a man, I think. Once you take responsibility for other people, that's when you become a man. And I mean, you really take responsibility. Like, you can take responsibility for yourself, but like, once you have a kid or you have people depending on you, and I would say once that kid from Guinea that's coming over, well, it's all men that are coming from there, but let's say like some Guatemalan child that's coming over by himself, just has a phone number in his pocket and he's 5 or 6 or whatever. And he's with some dude some guy, you know what I mean? Not even related to him. That kid, you have a responsibility to that kid. You know what I mean? But what's actually happening? What is happening? Like,
where are you going? Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And I Tim Pool is.
Yeah.
So he's a real big podcaster. He's been saying like, everyone who works for CBP needs to go to prison. Send them all to prison because they're trafficking children. And he's right to a degree. However, what we are doing, or what people, the immigration, say Border Patrol, for example, is doing, is people are crossing illegally. What are you doing? You're affecting their arrest. That's what you're doing. You are affecting the arrest. Now, the problem is what happens after that arrest. They get processed and they get sent to ICE's custody or street release, depending on what situation is happening at any given time, what our capacity is at. And these people are given NTA court dates for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years out, and they may or may not go. And then they're just being released. So technically, the Border Patrol is doing their job by someone crossed illegally and you arrested them. However, the process that's happening after that, which you can say is is maybe Border Patrol's fault because they affected the arrest. But what are they supposed to do, really? Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to play devil's advocate for these other people. For like Tim Pool thinks we should go to prison. For what? For following the law? Because I mean, it's like there is laws for removing people, but there's also asylum laws. So these people are clearly aren't asylum officers or aren't asylees. They don't meet the definition of asylees. Right. Border Patrol's not allowed to make that call, right? Anymore. Okay. Anymore. Yeah. As the law is now, currently we are not allowed. People in the front lines are not allowed to be like, well, this guy just told me he's coming here because he's poor. So that's clearly not, he doesn't meet the definition of asylee. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's an economic migrant. So in reality, I should be able to ER this guy or remove him, whatever. Yeah. Out the door. But because he's claiming asylum, I have to set him up for an asylum. Legally, I'm required to set him up to have that adjudicated by someone who is qualified or is legally required to make that determination of his asylum claim, whether it's an immigration judge or asylum officer, whatever. It's not necessarily my fault that there's millions of people crossing and there is no way you could hold those people until their court dates, you know what I mean? Which are 6, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years out. Right. So
it'd be weird. It's almost like maybe we could like close the border and stop letting thousands of people just walk.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. So crazy idea. That is, I think, the argument that people should be making is like, why haven't they shut the border down? Like, but once they cross, there is no. Yeah,
I haven't done anything that I wouldn't normally be doing, right? Like we snag all these dudes. We go down there and try not to get into a gunfight with a bunch of people running, trying to just crowd around us. And then we have to take them back into this spot, and then you roll fingerprints and stuff.
Biographicals, all that.
That's primarily 90% of what most of us are doing, which is the exact same thing as we would always do. Just it sucks now because it's not fun at all.
Well, it's not fun, and then it's also because we know what's happening.
We know what's happening afterwards,
down the process, but we're not really involved in that, right?
Right. We were never really that involved. Like, I don't know how many times did you snag a whole bunch of dope and people with it carrying 50-pound packs of dope, and the prosecutors are just like, man, we're not going to prosecute this case, and so they're just, I mean, they at least got sent back.
Yeah, exactly. They got sent back, or if their reentries, they did maybe 2 weeks in jail or something, and then they went back. But now it's, I mean.
I don't think that
vast majority.
If you look at the vast majority of the people out there doing the work, like everybody wants to be doing their real job.
Catch bad guys.
Yeah. You see, you're like, going to throw all these guys in jail. Like not everybody's, I'd say it as an overarching concept that this agency is violating its oath, and that's exactly what it's doing. And dereliction of duty is a better way actually.
But articulate why.
Why is dereliction of duty?
Well, yeah.
So dereliction of duty is essentially walking off your post, right? You have a post. You're assigned to this post. This is what you do. Yeah. And it's like kind of like what I was saying just a little bit ago about we have a job to protect all these people. Right. And that's what it is, right? Your job when you come here, you take this oath of office and stuff, and you say, hey, your job is to patrol this area. Yeah. You're the only law enforcement between ports of entry, and you are to stop. What is it that DHS even says it is? It's weapons of terrorism from entering the country, terrorist and terrorist weapons coming in and disrupting cartel operations. Last I saw, we're aiding all of those things.
Some would say facilitating,
right? Facilitating, and then also, facilitating the smuggling and stuff that's going on. So that's the dereliction of duty is you have a duty, right? Yeah. No one forced you into the duty, right? Sometimes, like the military, you can actually be charged with dereliction of duty. There's no federal charge for that. But so you have a post, you have a responsibility, regardless of what anybody says about that. You have a responsibility to do this thing, and then you just turn your back on it and walk away from it.
So I mean, what do you think it should look like? Like
I think most everybody with stars on their collar should be tried for treason. Because those are the guys that can make a change, right? You get 5 of those guys together to go to Congress and say, this is what's happening, right? Not somebody like our previous chief who was like just straight lying to Congress along with Mayorkas, right? Like, it's kind of like not that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
So maybe that was one of his exact words. Don't quote me on that. But he was not being honest about the circumstances, right? And that's the thing that Congress needs to do is stop talking to the chiefs. They don't care. They're looking at their next promotion. Start subpoenaing Border Patrol agents from every single station and sector, and you're going to get a whole different discussion.
Sure. They're going to hear.
They don't want to hear it though.
Yeah,
they don't want to hear it.
Yeah, well, the politicians don't want to hear it, and our management definitely doesn't want anyone to hear it.
I said something in the muster one time, and Some people lost their minds. They were a little bit. I'm like, hey man, somebody's got to do something about this. I lost my mind real quick because I was gone for most of 2022. So I wasn't here dealing with all the guys were telling me how bad things were. I'm like, yeah, dude, things are bad here, man. We're not even allowed to make the guys do push-ups anymore. Like they tell us what to do, actually, you know, like
it's a little different than like, oh, the trainees are being bitches versus we're destroying the country.
Yeah, it's a little different, right? Like, dude, when I first I'm like, you know what, I'll stay here, you know? But when I came back and saw it for myself, I lost my mind. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Cause like, you know, all the stuff we'd already kind of been talking about, like, what are we doing here? We have this responsibility and we're just abdicating it. And I really lost my mind over, man, after seeing some of the pictures and videos from like 3 Points and some of these other places, they're getting thousands of crossing a day. We had a few hundred and they were trying to tell us like, you guys need to go out there. Did you see them? You have to sit there and watch them. You have to sit there and watch them. You want 2 guys to sit on 400? Are you out of your fucking mind? Like, and I lost my shit a little bit. I'm like, dude, this is not okay. We're not doing it. You're going to get somebody killed. And like, they're like, OCC says that we have to do this. I'm like, OCC doesn't care that we're releasing terrorists in the country. I don't give a fuck what OCC says.
And they really don't care if you have one guy with 400 people. They don't care.
Yeah. We're like, oh, it's just your life.
Unless something happens, then maybe they would care.
Yeah.
You know,
but then they're going to depend on you, right? Like,
that doesn't make you feel better if it happens.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to you or your buddy, right? Like you're going to lose. And like all these people are so disconnected. These are the people that are in charge of this agency are the same people that just lost Afghanistan, right? Because they're not saying anything. They're watching. This is our Afghanistan. Like, not to equate it. It's not the same thing. Nobody's getting killed out here every single day.
I mean, what's that girl's name? Lincoln Riley. I mean, she got killed.
She got killed because of our dereliction of duty.
Yeah.
But like, I just meant to say, like, you know, there's all these guys, like all these actors, like say that like it's like going to war, you know, and they're doing their thing. I don't want it to sound like, oh, you know, lots of guys got blown up, and I know I have lots of buddies that got blown up, shot, all this stuff. So I'm not equating what we do to being in actual combat, but it is our line that we're supposed to hold. And just like they abandoned Afghanistan, we've abandoned this. And everybody that's responsible for that should face consequences, right? But like,
so to what degree do you bear responsibility then as an agent or as somebody who's working that job? You know, like what degree are we responsible? That's what I wrestle with this all the time because I look at shit, New York falling apart, Chicago falling apart, and yeah, it's their fucking politics or whatever. But like the people that are sent there by the thousands or whatever, they probably, I probably saw some of them face to face at one point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, dude, like
every terrorist that comes in is like, I'm going to a mosque in New York. I'm like, see you later, dude.
But to what degree are you? I mean, do you feel like?
I wrestle with it too, man. Yeah, because like on one level, there's what could we do? Nothing, right? On one level, I can quit, and then I'm no longer participating in that, and that's like, you know, 50% of the time, that's what I want to do, and then the other half is like there is so. I don't want to participate in it, but it's also like we are a part of the problem because we aren't doing anything, right? Do we have any power to do anything? No.
If all of us just said no, like
if all of us said no, that's what we need. Right?
COVID showed us that won't happen. Yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that won't happen because I mean, they wouldn't protect themselves. They're definitely not going to protect
100%. Yeah, you know, if we could just get everybody to like, because everybody feels the same. Everybody feels the same way.
Oh yeah,
they're just not willing to necessarily stand up and say this is it and it's enough. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man, because I think everyone hides behind what we're doing is legal.
Oh yeah, agreed.
But law has never been a gauge for morality. Slavery was legal, you know what I mean? Right. Like the Holocaust was legal, you know, according to their laws. You know, like your laws are not necessarily a gauge of your morality. So I don't know. Like I think about it all the time. So I don't know. I think we'll see what this next cycle happens when the next administration comes in.
I think that's a lot of it. Everybody's holding on hope to the light. If
nothing changes, then they're going to have to face some hard realities. Like what's going to happen? What are we going to do? Because 3 things happen, right? It keeps going the way it's like, say nothing changes. It just keeps going the way we just have like millions coming in every year. I think it was 3.5 million.
You're going to have to double the pay for this job because everybody's going to be quitting. They can't hire enough people as it is. And they don't even have standards.
The money won't be worth that much. Like,
it's
just fucking like, this is the cost of this. Like we're already seeing people getting killed by these people. Not to say they're all criminals, but there are criminals for all clearly.
I would, there's a high percentage,
dude,
right?
They're banding together and like these Venezuelans are banding together in New York and creating these little like cells,
Dude,
gangs,
they could just
whatever.
bring everybody, right? Like,
why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
But if I was a dictator in fucking some shit country somewhere, and I'm like, oh, they're just letting everybody in and they're keeping them. Well, I'm time to empty my prisons.
imagine being ISIS and not being like, oh yeah, we're going to send some dudes over there, right? Like every minor league terrorist group is trying to send people here,
Why
right?
wouldn't
Like,
you? Why would you not? Like,
Yeah.
If I'm a tactical person and I'm in one of these groups that's hostile to this country, I'm going to send somebody through their fucking southern border. It goes wide open and let them stay and just tell them, give them, especially if you're funded, like if you have funding to put behind it, like pay for this guy to get through the Darien Gap or whatever and come up, through the border, and then just, pay for them, like give them money to, or they don't even have to, they can file for those travel loans they get from the UN that are interest free. If anyone hasn't seen that, look into that scam. Like, how are these people getting here? How are they being funded? Well, NGOs are funding them, and governments
who's funding those NGOs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly us.
Governments. Yeah, mostly us too.
That was terrifying. The Darien Gap thing when Brett Weinstein, I listened to his interviews
the
about
Chinese,
that.
30,000 Chinese like coming across. Dude.
What? That's an invading army. And
They don't have guns. That's what I'm saying. These people, we're not at war with Russia. There's been no formal declaration. But like, you're retarded. Like,
what?
You think just 30,000 fucking
adult fighting age males,
men coming
right?
from a hostile country?
Oh, that was another one of the big things too. Like with all the people that are coming across, no one gets fingerprinted or taken a picture of that is under the age of 14.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So now you have this giant segment of the population, right? Because I know people 13, 14 years old over in Afghanistan and the Middle East, it's nothing. You're an adult man.
Yeah.
You could be fighting on the battlefield, right? So we don't have any record that these people even entered the country other than a name that they gave us.
Yeah.
So if there are dudes that are going to be clacking vests off or voting in elections, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to deny that guy to buy a gun either. Not that you can do that now.
And just think about what we've done in the last 20 years. These last 20 years of fucking GWAT, global war on terror, like all the wedding parties that we bombed, all the fucking collateral damage that Snowden talked about, that the Bradley Chelsea Manning, whatever his name is, her name.
Wasn't it something like the drone? There was one when there's just leaked out that like vast majority of the casualties under the drones were,
it was a huge
all
percentage.
civilians.
I think it was 90+% were actually not the intended target. So I don't think it doesn't say they were collateral damage because they could also have been
bad
terrorist
people.
assholes.
Yeah.
But come on, like at least some of those are going to be like innocent people. So imagine you're a 13-year-old and your mother and sister got blown up in a cafe because they wanted to blow up a terrorist asshole.
Yeah.
So maybe they got the terrorist asshole.
Yeah.
You knew that guy was in there, but your mother and sister are dead now.
There's nothing else I think about for the rest of my life,
For
right?
the rest of your life. And now you're a child and you come through here and you come through the border, you just come into the country and you're getting all this aid and you get put up in a hotel in New York or whatever. And then in 5 years you think, oh, well, he's been here for 5 years. He's good. Like you're going to be converted to the American way. It's like, no, all you're going to think about is that how your fucking mother and sister were blown to fucking pieces. And you went in there and you picked those pieces up with your father or your brother and you collected those pieces and you had your funeral. And that's all you're going to think about for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then now you're here. What would you do? I don't know. I have my imagination runs wild.
Yeah.
And that's just a hypothetical, but come on, that at least has to be a rough story.
A lot of people out there that had that happen. If 90% of the drone casualties were, and we did. Remember when Obama was like, it turns out I'm pretty good at killing people, like bragging about it. Bragging about all the drone attacks,
He blew up a wedding in Yemen. Like he blew up a wedding. Dude, he's killed American citizens with drones. Anwar al-Awlaki.
Okay. I was going to say, I forgot the guy's name, but yeah.
And
him and his son, right?
Yep. His son.
And then they wouldn't rule out doing that on U.S. soil either, right?
Exactly.
Eric Holder was like, we can't rule that out.
Dude, you still talk to people that we work with that. I'd be like, well, they were terrorists. It's like, yeah, they were Americans. So they still deserve a trial. You should have sent a bunch of dudes with fucking beards and fucking.
Yeah. And if he raises a gun, then smoke his ass, right? Like that's what you do.
Like if we get a warrant on someone's house and we don't just
drone strike it.
We know they're in there, just blow it up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're cartel, blow it up. It's like, no, dude, they've got 50 fucking bodies in there that are just innocent people.
Yeah.
Blow it up.
But that's the way that you think at the first, right? Because I was on board too. It's like, yeah, fuck that guy. He was a terrorist, right?
All of us were.
But like as you said it way earlier, it's like every tool that you give them, they're using against you.
And if you have these morals, like these morals will keep you on the right side of things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have to think about that before it happens, before someone asks you to blow up a building because I know this asshole who's killed Americans is in that building. Yeah, he's in there with his kids, but he's in that building. You know what I mean? What do your morals tell you? Does that guy deserve to die? 100%.
Yeah.
Right. do his kids deserve to die? I don't think so.
No.
And now you can say, well, how many people is he going to kill if you don't blow him up? That's the utilitarian greater good argument, which I don't agree with, because I could kill you right now, harvest your organs, and save 7 people. That doesn't make it right. You know what I mean?
Right. Even though you saved 7 lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a terrible argument. Yeah, dude,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to think about these philosophical moral questions. More people should think about them. I know people don't, but you should, because you're going to get put in a position just like we were at some point. You're gonna have to make decisions, you know.
Well, then that's what it is, right? Everybody wants to stop talking about it. Everybody wants to push this stuff under the rug, and you can't. You have to keep talking about this, because how do you make decisions? Because this showed you something about yourself, good or bad. Well, what are you gonna do next time? You need to be having. Yeah, I agree. You have to have these discussions with yourself, because you don't. If you try to make that decision in the moment, you're probably gonna fuck that up, right? You're gonna lean on the authority that's telling you to do something. And
mental mapping, right? Like you don't want to You don't want to be shot at for the first time and you've never thought about being shot at. What are you going to do? You're going to freeze, or you're definitely going to do the wrong thing. Or you might not do anything because you haven't thought about what you would do in that situation. Like I don't know about you, but I mental map all the time. When I go into a building, I'm like, what if someone just came in that door right now, started shooting? It's like, okay, well, there's a door over there. You know, I'm facing the front door so I can see. Like, I'm just doing things like that all the time, you know, like, so when it does happen,
you're at least less surprised.
Or at least I won't just freeze. And, you know, I have nightmares about like being put in like a Uvalde shooting scenario and then being the guy who just freezes. You know what I mean? Like, I fucking have nightmares about that. And the only way you're not that guy is you have to decide before that happens that you're not going to be that guy. Yeah. If you've never thought about it before and then it happens, well, you might freeze like some of those guys.
Yeah. But I think it's probably more likely that you would just freeze, right? Like,
because you're like, fuck, man, the terror, like the shock of like, if you've had traumatic things happen at work, like sometimes things happen and there's one thing that happened to me that I think about a lot is I get called to a house. They're loading dope, you know, into a car. So the RP's a neighbor. So I show up at the house. I go to the actual house they said they were loading dope at. And the person I was with, who's no longer with us, she's an FBI agent now.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, she
I think I know
went to the RP's house for whatever reason. I went straight to the house and they were saying, no, they're loading dope. And I'm like, I walk up, I'm knocking on the door. I don't see anything. There's a bunch of cars in the driveway and, you know, a few minutes. And then I just hear a click. I turn, I look back and there's someone hanging out of one of the cars, like clearly someone that we would be dealing with. So I'm like, I tell him, stop, you know, don't move, you know, now. So I run after him. And dude, as I'm running by, I just look in the car full of dope, chock full. And then where that guy was sitting in the car, a gun that he had on his lap or pocket, whatever, fell. It was like in the seat, the back seat where he came out of. Whoa. So like if I had walked up to that car just to look in the cars, that dude probably would have shot me right in the face, dude. But like, I think about those things all the time. And then, but when it happened, it was slow motion. Like, the gun, the dope, like everything. It was just, I was just running. Like I knew I had to get this guy. I knew I saw the gun. Okay. I got to secure the gun. Like it was just, it wasn't like, fuck, what do I do right now? Yeah. Like, no, I've already thought about things like that. So like I instantly secured the gun, secured the dope. By that time, the other girl showed up and there were 6 more guys that were in a trailer that was on the property. So it was a shit show, dude. So someone that also got fired showed up. Because we daisy chained those 6 bodies and one of them slipped his cuffs and took off running. And then so the guy that showed up saw this happening. He shot his taser, almost shot the female that was with us. It was a fucking shit show. But like, anyway, I'm just saying shit, it happened real quick. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if I had never thought that I could be in a situation like that, when that guy came out of that car with that gun, like I would have just like, I'm going to just like, you know what I mean? Instead of like just immediately jumped off the porch and ran after him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You got a mental map. You know what I mean? You have to decide what you're going to do in those high stress situations. Like you cannot predict any high stress situation you're going to come across, but you just decide, I'm not going to, fight, flight, freeze. I'm not going to freeze. Yeah. I'm never going to freeze. Yeah. You got to do something. You have Sometimes it's the wrong thing, but you might do the wrong thing, but that's almost better than freezing is almost always the wrong thing.
It's almost always the worst thing you can do.
And that is a choice, you know? Yeah. Like we said earlier. Anyway, dude, we're over time.
Oh, okay.
Anything you want to say about cowards?
Hell yeah. Man, I could do this for hours.
Me too, dude.
So the one thing I wanted to say, and it relates to a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, especially about the kid thing. I sent you the quote when we were originally going to do this, and I forget who said it, but it said, if you leave your kids a world in which you never stood up, they inherit one in which they can't. So it's a lot of that stuff that we were talking about. But
yeah, I mean, I have kids, and I think about it all the time. I would rather fight than they fight. You know what I mean? I'd rather be hard for me than to take the easy path, and then it'll be hard for them.
yeah,
you know?
because then it should be compounded.
Yeah, it seems to be getting worse. You know what I mean? So
it is. It's only getting worse, and
seems to be.
and it just keeps. It keeps getting that compounding on, and the sooner you deal with the problem, any problem, the sooner you deal with it, right? Just like you were talking about the situation you're in. If you just waited, that's not going to get better.
No,
you go now.
Yeah,
you try to solve the
I
problem as quick as possible.
Maybe he probably just would have shot me, or who knows what he would have done. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's I agree 100%, dude. Well, fuck, dude. Thanks for doing this.
Hell yeah,
You definitely come back. We'll have to do a part 2.
100%.
All right, dude.